The movie opens in Tokyo, 1950. A foreigner steps into a traditional Japanese dojo, his eyes fixed on a framed photograph hanging on the wall. He asks for the man in the picture. The sensei studies him carefully and asks if he truly knew the man. The foreigner answers coldly, yes, he knew him during the war. With a heavy pause, the sensei drops a revelation. The man in the photograph was his father, and he often spoke of this foreigner. But trust quickly turns to suspicion. The sensei orders his students to attack. They charge only to be dismantled in seconds. Every strike from the stranger precise and devastating. Wait, I think you know this man. Things are only warming up. How will the storm break? Drop your ideas in the comments and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Let's keep going. The sensei fixes his gaze on the stranger. What have you come for? He asks. And just like that, the movie flashes back, dragging us from Tokyo into the chaos of World War II. Philippines, 1942. James Wright, a British wing commander of the Royal Air Force, is shot down. His comrades don't make it. He survives the crash, but not for long. Captured, beaten, and dragged into a Japanese army camp hidden deep in the jungle. His fate seems sealed. The general takes one look at him and decides he's not worth keeping alive. The order: kill him immediately. 3 soldiers haul him into the forest to be executed. They raise their blades for beheading. But here's where the film turns. James snaps. With explosive precision, he dismantles all 3 in seconds. Brutal, efficient, and terrifying. You think he's about to escape? Not quite. The jungle has other plans. A hidden net trap slams around him, dragging him back into the nightmare. The general is furious. One man has already cost him lives. But instead of killing James on the spot, he makes a cruel decision: throw him in prison. At dawn, he fights. If he's truly a warrior, he'll survive. If he's just a lucky coward, he dies. And that's the moment the film really sets its tone. This isn't just a war movie. It's survival, honor, and raw human endurance colliding head-on. Inside the prison, James meets other Allied soldiers, men broken by the camp, beaten and waiting for death. But at dawn, the guards drag him out. What he sees is pure horror. 3 men are already lined up, forced to face a towering Japanese warrior, an executioner in all but name. One by one, they're torn apart, killed in seconds as the general watches with cold, cruel satisfaction. Now it's James's turn. The general smirks, convinced this British pilot will meet the same fate. But here's where everything flips. With a single earth-shaking kick, James sends the giant staggering like he's made of paper. The crowd gasps, and then the final blow, a punch so heavy it feels like a hammer splitting stone. The giant collapses, silent, lifeless. The general storms back to his tent in shame. James is thrown back into the prison, but this time he's not just another captive. To the prisoners, he's a hero, their champion, their glimmer of hope in a living hell. And here's where the movie plants its seed of dread. The general's assistant whispers the warning: we need to kill him now before he becomes a problem. And that's the beauty of this setup. It's not just about survival anymore. It's about power. The second James proves he can fight back, the camp shifts. Hope rises among the prisoners, but fear spreads among their captors. And that tension, that's where the storm begins to build. The next day, the general decides to raise the stakes. 3 Japanese soldiers are ordered into the ring against James, but the outcome is inevitable. They charge him, furious, desperate, yet he dismantles them with the same brutal efficiency. They fall like dominoes. Humiliated once again, the general shouts the order: finish them. But James refuses. He won't kill beaten men. That defiance doesn't sit well. The Japanese don't tolerate weakness, not even from their own. The soldiers are executed on the spot, an act that shocks even the prisoners. James may have survived, but mercy here has a price. Back in the prison, he learns of an even darker fate. Captives are to be marched on foot to another camp, a death march across brutal terrain. Survive the journey and you'll only die at the end. For James, this isn't just survival anymore. It's escape or nothing. At dawn, he makes his move. The prisoners stage a fake brawl, pulling the guards' attention. In the chaos, James slips away, scaling the watchtower. He steals a radio, hiding it carefully between sandbags. Night falls. He slips out of the camp and into the jungle, turns the radio on, and suddenly, a spark of hope. Voices, Allied soldiers, speaking in Navajo code. They're close, closer than anyone dares believe. James quietly sneaks back into camp unseen, carrying the weight of this secret. But the morning brings brutality. The guards, sensing rebellion, tie him up and beat him mercilessly with sticks. Bloody but unbroken, James is untied, and then, incredibly, he rises again. With the same devastating force, he floors his attackers like they're nothing more than children. And this is where the film takes its next big turn. James isn't just surviving anymore. He's outsmarting, resisting, and striking back. Shame burns deeper than defeat. To calm his rage, the general turns his fury on the helpless, executing prisoners at random, just to remind everyone who holds the power. In the infirmary, James sees another side of the war. The nurses tending the wounded are willing participants. They're prisoners, too, forced to serve. And then comes the twist. The general pays James a visit, holding his dog tags and his hard-earned Medal of Valor. He demands that James help decipher the Navajo codes the Allies are using. But there's a problem. James doesn't know the language. His defiance only earns him humiliation, his medal withheld, his identity stripped from him. Back in prison, James starts plotting again. With the help of an American sergeant, first class, he plans to sneak out, reach the radio, and contact the Allies. But everything collapses in a heartbeat. An American captain, reckless and desperate, kills a Japanese soldier. The plan is blown. The men scatter back to their cells. By sheer luck, James and the sergeant slip into their bunks just before the guards begin their furious search. The next morning, the general finds a new way to break their spirits. He sends the American captain into the fighting ring. The general drags out another innocent prisoner. The demand is chilling. Kill him. Use your forbidden technique. But James refuses. He won't slaughter a helpless man. His answer isn't just defiance, it's a code. He follows the way of Bushido more faithfully than the general himself. For James, combat must be honorable. Face to face, a fight of equals. James the prisoner embodies the code of the samurai better than the general who claims to command it. What follows is chaos. The captain is unhinged. He fights with fists, with teeth, with sheer rage, tearing through the camp in a storm of violence. For a moment, it looks like he might destroy everything, but it ends in disaster. That night, James and the sergeant try again. They slip out under the cover of darkness, this time successfully using the radio. The sergeant knows the Navajo code and manages to reach Allied forces. A spark of hope at last, but when they return to their cell, it's empty. The other prisoners are gone. Before they can even move, Japanese soldiers storm in. A flash of steel, then darkness. James regains consciousness to the roar of chaos. The Allies are already bombing the camp. Explosions tear through the jungle. In the confusion, the forced labor nurses rush in, cutting James and the sergeant free. They run through fire and gunpowder, searching desperately for a working radio. At the tower, the sergeant makes contact while James grabs a rifle, covering prisoners and nurses, gunning down enemies in the smoke. But not everyone makes it. In the chaos, the unhinged American captain falls, his rage finally consumed in the battle. Yet, James, the sergeant, the nurses, and a grizzled survivor known only as the Beard pushed through the inferno. James remembers one thing, his dog tags and his medal still in the hands of the general. He storms the tent. The two clash in a brutal duel, the culmination of everything. But before James can finish it, the sergeant drags him back. There's no time. One soldier lifts his rifle, aiming for James, but in a final, twisted moment, the general himself stops the shot. His pride won't allow James to die that way. The survivors flee into the jungle, stumbling upon the wreckage of a crashed airplane. There, they rig a steel cable, hooking it to another plane flying above. In a breathtaking escape, they're lifted into the sky, leaving the burning camp below. Looking down, they make a vow. One day, they will return to free the rest. Then, we cut back to Tokyo, 1950, the sensei, the general's son. He tells James his father is dead but not forgotten. He demands James show him the forbidden technique his father once spoke of. James agrees. The son charges only to be dismantled in seconds. Floored as if he were nothing, breathless, the son produces James's medal and dog tags. His father had told him, one day a white man will come for these. And with that, the story ends. A brutal journey of survival, honor, and the clash of two codes where the true warrior wasn't the general, but the prisoner who lived by Bushido. And that's it for today's recap. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe because the next story is just around the